Elliot, if I told you
Hello.
last week that the DJ Armin van Buuren and the Counter-Strike ecosystem would have a collaboration this last week, would you have expected such a thing?
I would have responded, who is Armin van Buuren?
That's a reasonable answer because I also had to look it up. So
yeah,
Armin van Buuren is the DJ.
Not my flavor.
Okay. And the reason that we're bringing him up is because last week, the first bit of IESF, which is the International Esports Federation, I think.
We'll go with it.
We're running with it. The women's tournament finished and the Netherlands won. And so Armin van Buuren, being a Dutch DJ, had them on stage in the middle of one of his sets holding the trophy up, which is just absolutely awesome.
So, was he there booked regardless of whether or not Holland won or Netherlands won?
I don't know. I don't see. Here's
that's my
here's
question.
My thing. I can't.
Were they going to play anyway?
I can't tell if this was. Again, I have little to no, knowledge about this. I don't know if he was at some other event, and
it just happened to be.
I don't know what it was.
What's going on?
Cool.
Is this more or less weird than Eva Elfie just showing up to the major?
I feel like more.
Incorrect answer. You're supposed to say, who is Eva Elfie? That's what you're supposed to say. You've outed yourself.
Brother, the internet outed itself a long time ago.
Yeah, well, quite. Unfortunately, it's one of those things you can't not know who she is because she was on Twitter all the time.
Fucking Pimp had a show. Pimp was on some broadcast with her, and he had to label the tweet that was like, don't go looking into this if you're underage. Funny as shit.
Yeah, don't click on her Twitter profile. It's like, why did you tag it then?
This week, we talk about ESL Pro League Group A, Group B, a ton of just random-ass interviews that happened this week, and we'll talk about the Mongols' new addition to the team, all that and more after the intro, which we're rolling now. Welcome to Overtime Inferno. I am Logan Ramhab. This is AZS. We are back after week 1 of Pro League. Apologies that this podcast is going out a day late or 2 days late, depending on where you are in the world, because blame meetings. That's what we go with.
We usually record on Wednesday afternoon, and we couldn't because Logan had a lunchtime meeting, which seems like cruel and unusual punishment to me.
Agreed, but I got my lunch paid for.
Doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah, it's whatever. I had to. We'll survive. So I want to do this podcast in bookends. So I want to talk about Group A here at the beginning. Then we'll get to the random stories in the middle, and then we'll do Group B at the end. I want to bookend it with Pro League. So let's start with Group A, where you and I were right, and I will take no comments on the matter.
Yeah, nothing interesting happened.
So let's start with Vitality, which literally nothing interesting happened with. They 2-0'd Orcs, they 2-0'd NIP, and then they 2-0'd the other team in the upper bracket final, which I'm going to purposely not say for a moment. NIP 2-0'd Astralis because of course they did. Of course they
and then they just lost every
other game. But the bottom half of this bracket is the fun bit. So we had talked about how even though there's Vitality, Astralis, and NIP in this bracket, and the whole bracket, that only one of them could make the upper finals. That the lower finals would be either Gamer Legion, Greyhound, Movistar Riders, or Furia. And we had a conundrum on our hands on who to put in that upper final slot. The probability was that it would be Gamer Legion. But you and I both made a guess that
Movistar just do this sometimes. I don't know how. You look at when you watch them at most events, they don't look very good. And you look at the individual players, you're like, who's the star here? And then they just rock up to like Pro League and just beat like 3 good teams. You know?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh, 2 good teams in this case. Like, I guess you're just good. I guess. I don't know.
Yep. They just kind of made it to the upper finals.
Yeah. I mean, I will say they beat a slightly dysfunctional Furia and Gamer Legion, who, we do think are quite good, but at the end of the day are still Gamer Legion. They haven't overpowered giants to get there, and when they did play a giant, they did get soundly beaten. But,
I would like to state that Movistar at their most recent like normal roster ranking was like 35 in the world, and Gamer Legion is currently 7.
It's not like Gamer Legion are bad or anything. It's just people will say it's only Gamer Legion.
So it's a little bit of a weird of a bracket. We had a last chance stage as well. So our lower bracket was Orcs against Astralis. Astralis won that, of course. Astralis then won against Gamer Legion, which was a little bit more of a test battle. Still a 2-0, but it felt harder.
It was certainly harder than Orcs.
Yeah.
Who basically rolled over.
Furia played one against Greyhound. Furia then won against NIP. Astralis Furia in the lower finals for the Astralis win.
I believe we talked about Furia NIP as a potential and saying we had absolutely no idea what would happen. And then I also said I didn't think Yuri was that good. So obviously he was the one who kicked off and took over the game.
So we were all over the place in predictions from last week. And then last chance stage, which decides our 4th team, ended up being Gamer Legion against Furia, which was the match that most people would have thought would have been the upper semis for that side of the bracket.
Yeah, probably.
And it wasn't. Furia won this one here. So Gamer Legion won't be going.
A lot of 2-0s in this.
There was a lot of 2-0s. There was actually only 2 2-1s, and they were both in the last chance stage. Every match in the actual bracket was a 2-0. So teams moving on from Group A are going to be Vitality, Movistar Riders, Astralis, and Furia. Meaning NIP is not through and Gamer Legion is not through. I think for us, we're definitely more saddened about the fact that Gamer Legion is not through as opposed to NIP. But I'm excited about Movistar is through, and that would probably be been the team that Gamer Legion replaced.
Honestly, I'm happy to see Furia recover to 4th. I always think the scene is better when Furia are a good team.
I agree with that, but probably for different reasons.
Well, you're looking at it from they're essentially North America.
No, it's actually not what I'm looking at it from. I think Furia is more important team to have, is a really important team to have around right now because they are realistically the only team from Brazil.
Okay, and having that's a large part.
And having Brazil as Brazil exist, right, is such a huge fan base and stuff that it's kind of
people like to mock the Brazilian fan stuff. I think Counter-Strike's a better place when we have a Brazilian team in the top 10. And also Furia are just a fun team. They're just a fun team to watch, and it's, for me at least, always nice to see Fallen back on top.
Yeah. All right, let's do some rapid fire stuff. Because it's Pro League and because all of the pros are all in Malta, it means we get about 1 trillion different interviews from HLTV within about 5 minutes. So we have them here. And we're going to talk about some of them. So before we get to the interviews, Ents this morning signed a ESL Impact team made up of a couple of players from Aces during the 3rd Impact League season and a former G2 player. Menka. So excited. More teams are getting into it. Ents Athena will be making their debut in a week when Impact starts in Europe.
Athena is one of the cooler suffixes.
I agree. Yeah, it is. Well, it's not prefix.
It's not. I think suffix has to attach to the end of the word. Regardless, it's one of the cooler ones.
Yeah. I dig it. I don't understand how it works with Ents because I think I guess Enceladus is from Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Because I know Athena is historically Greek mythological. I just assumed Enceladus was not Greek mythological, but the more I think about it, I think it probably is.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, but it seems like a Greek thing to do.
All right. Next, one of the two overperforming teams at the Paris Major, Apex, and their head coach Cuban have parted ways. Mither will be promoted as the new head coach. Sorry, not promoted, appointed. Former Mouse coach.
Well, he was on the Apex Rebels team, so he is sort of promoted. Mither, he was at North and Mouse. Gets a lot of credit for his ability to bring up young players. A lot of the time, he was a teacher, I believe, at like an esports academy, university type thing. And when he left Mouse, I believe he said he wanted like a project of young players to bring up, which is why he ended up on Apex Rebels. Interesting that he's gone back to like, senior coaching.
Yeah, I mean the Apex Rebels team, the regular Apex team, has some youngsters in it as well. Maybe
of course,
it's its own kind of thing. You've got the North Macedonian duo of Kachanito and Kixon, so maybe the ability to bring them up and help their game may have been a good shot. It may have also just been
we'll see how it goes.
May have just also been Cuban got like a great offer. It doesn't seem that it is a bad Cuban left the team. It seems like it was we're switching coaches.
Yeah, of course. But it does seem surprising given how much they overachieved and seem to continue doing to then swapping your coach. But we don't know the inner workings. It's very hard to tell how much a coach does from the outside. So good luck.
All right, let's start with our interviews. I've got 3 on the board that are important for us to do. One was from HLTV Confirmed, a obviously subpar podcast, and 2 are from Pro League themselves. So the first one I want to talk about is the Torzy interview that he did with HLTV, in which he has said a couple of things, one of them being that Pro League is too forgiving, which I agree with because there's 17 bits through. And then 2, I got to find the exact quote, but he says that not all of his problems were because of Dexter.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, but people like to.
The bit I have on this
people like to ascribe blame like that.
Not all of the problems were because of Dexter.
Yeah, I mean, but I think if you're Torzy, you probably do have to think like, you almost have to think, oh no, I am better than that. Like, and even if he doesn't believe it, like assigning blame to the structure means that he can still have some faith in his own ability, as well as being able to be like, this is what I need to do better. But also, I was still good. It was just, things didn't quite click.
Yeah.
We'll see with Dexter. Like, I mean, he had plenty of time at Mouse and never really, like, both AWPers he had didn't look very good. So there is a pattern emerging.
He goes on to say, I wouldn't say Dexter had a bad system. I think they're both good, but I have a better connection with Camille Suhi. I really like him. He's also my age. We're closer, good friend, good connection that also helps outside the server. All of that. That was the big.
Yeah, Dexter's like quite a bit older, and that is significant. Like people, all professionals and that, but there is a level to where it's like, I think Dexter's like 8 years older.
Yeah, I think Dexter's like,
and it's like,
I want to say he's 28, 29.
I don't hang out with many 19-year-olds.
No.
And there's a reason for that.
I was going to say, wait, no. And then I remembered that I am, in fact, not 19 anymore.
Yeah. Actually, in esports, it's a little bit more. I have friends in esports who are quite a bit younger than me.
I'm like 8 years younger than you. 7 years younger than you. 5 years younger. I don't know. I don't remember how to do math, man. In the math.
But it's like, that is significant when it comes to like how you view things and how you like when you hang out, like the things that you want to do, even like just being with people your own age is going to be a little bit easier generally. I mean, it's a general rule. It's not hard and fast, but
yeah,
that is significant.
All right. Next is the Cadian interview that he did with HLTV. Basically, there was a bunch of stuff that he said that they're just not playing to the way that they want to play. That they're not playing. Where is it? If it would be easier to answer the question of, is there any sense it might be a rethink of the play style or rethink play style fundamentally? It would be easier to answer that question if we execute our philosophies correctly. Then if you lost, you see that you're one step ahead. You know what you're doing. If we execute things correctly and still lose, we have to look at it. but people know we're aggressive, but we've always had solutions to change the pace of the game. So Cadian has basically come out and said that the problems that they're currently having on Heroic, which I would state that they are definitely having some amount of problems in the last couple of events.
They are, but it's also like you're still really good, and it doesn't ever feel doomed.
That their thought processes, they have a play style, they have a philosophy on how they want to play, and they're just not playing to that philosophy.
I think that's true. I think he's been very candid and honest there, especially in the big games. You can tell that Heroic are not the same beast. Like, they don't play the same way in group stages as they do on stage, and it is a shame.
And actually, right now, they're not playing the same in group stages as they are on stage either.
Well, that's
we'll talk to that. We'll talk about Heroic a little bit more when we hit the end of Group B. But when we talk about Group B, but there's something brewing as we're recording. So there's something brewing there.
The Heroic domination era might genuinely be ending, and they have almost nothing to show for it.
One more article interview that we want to talk about is Jerry, famed For's IGL.
Jerry.
So former For's IGL Jerry revealed that he had received international offers. He didn't like the way those teams were trying to build their rosters, and so he's building his own roster. And it's going to reveal in a week and a day's time, so Friday next week. And this is the team I am most excited for. Not that there's many other teams to be excited to come out, but like I'm very excited about this team.
The thing is, he didn't actually need to announce his team, because I already know it's going to be 4 players I've never heard of, and 2 of them are going to be brilliant, and Jerry's going to make 2 of them really good, and that's it. That's what he's always. When they made the For's rosters, the last few For's rosters, I didn't know who Shalfie was. I watched him play. I didn't think he was very good, and then like 6 months later, watch him again. He's like, oh, he is really good now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who Zorti was. He's now really good. Like, it doesn't, like, Jerry is going to do things his own way. He's going to build a team of players you've not heard of, and he's going to turn them into a really good team.
Yeah, so I want to read some quotes from the article on how he found the team members, because I think it's very interesting. I have my own vision of which players the team should include to progress in half a year. This is like timeline goal. In response to whether he wants young, hungry players, yes, but there's specific things. For example, it might be an experienced operator in the current meta. In the future meta, a sniper will be doing a lot of the impact and clutches and opening duels and finishing rounds. That's the sniper. So the first thing I want to say should be young players who are ready to grind. And for me, this is the most important, that they're ready to listen. If you get invited to Cloud9, you go there, and there are really good people that I would like to listen to what they're going to say about the game, how they're going to approach the game. But in my case, since I didn't receive an offer for such talented players, I have only one way to find good, ready-to-work people and tell them how they can do what they want. I want them to realize that they're good players, and maybe they just didn't have enough resources, or maybe they didn't have an IGL, or maybe they didn't have confidence. That's my mission here. I want to try to help them find their way in the world of Counter-Strike. That's my goal. I realized I'm really good at helping people who think they're bad, who think they're not capable to play a tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3. I just know the steps.
He's got such a savior complex,
but
he's actually just looking at players going, I can fix it.
Yeah, but he does. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's a savior complex has such this like negative connotation of like, oh, I can save them. But in this case, he just actually does.
Yeah. He's just looking at all these players going, I can fix him, and then he does, and then he moves them on. He's like flipping properties. That's what he's doing.
All right, and the last team we want to talk about today is the pod's favorite Mongols, who have adjusted their roster again. Hazteca will be leaving the team, and they're signing Senzu, who requires some more conversation, because...
So I'm told Hazteca was originally supposed to be the in-game leader, and they went back to Blitz, and so Hazteca basically was pointless on the team because he clearly wasn't good enough to be a player. And then when he wasn't in-game leading, what's the point? Because they looked better under Blitz anyway.
So Senzu used to play for a team called NKT, basically the other team in Mongolia. Which Sorry, NKT was not the other team in Mongolia. NKT is the Asian super team in strong quotes with Bentet, Exogen.
They are now, but were they then?
They were then, I believe.
Okay.
He left in November. Oh yeah, I guess this was just. Oh no, he left in April. He was benched in April. So yes, this was during the Exogen, Urkist, Bentet era.
Yeah, it's when they're. Okay.
The problem is that Team NKT put out a tweet in the beginning of June saying that, quote, "We regret to inform you that Senzu has been found guilty of a fraud scheme that has affected our players and management earlier this year. He has confessed to all of his actions. We are working diligently with all parties to resolve this matter." And it says Bentet came out, said this is absolutely true. Apparently, the fraud that was committed by Senzu was lending other Team NKT member skins and then gambling them and then losing the skins. And then he lied to the rest of his team and didn't pay them back for the lost items.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually aware of that. That's, I mean, personally, that would just be a no-go for me. I know he's 17.
He was 16 at the time. Not that makes a huge difference.
Even so for me, I mean, well, he's 17 now.
Yes, he is 17 now.
If he has grown up, he's done it very quickly. But also, like, to me, that's just like, I'm kind of hardline about that stuff. I'm always very reticent to let people back who have been VAC banned. Even though, I was VAC banned when I was 14. It's like, when I was 14, I knew better.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I could be quite hardline on that, and I'm aware that's not the normal. It's not the opinion of a lot of people. To me, I certainly wouldn't re-sign somebody who was banned.
This would be a new sign, but still. Same vibe.
He was on the Mongols before.
He was on the old version of the Mongols, I believe.
Yeah.
Because the Mongols is not a real team.
Sorry, yeah, I saw he was on the Mongols. No. I was like, oh yeah, so, I forgot they.
Yeah, Mongols isn't a real org. It's just this. It's the team that everyone in Mongolia takes as they're looking for org. There's a couple other of those teams around the world. Like Party Astronauts or Bad News Bears, actually. Bad News Bears is like the NA version of like if a team is looking for a team and it's got one or two of the members from the original Bad News Bears, they take the name. It's the same thing there. All right, let's get to the last bit of the episode. Group B, which is going on right now. The opening round is done, and there was some interesting-ish bits. I want to start not with Haruk. I want to get to Haruk at the end. I want to start with Ents, who beat up on EG.
Yeah. I think I said in the newsletter that forget MR12, this might be the fastest best of 3 ever, even with 16 rounds and a half. 15 rounds.
Yeah, Ents looked particularly good.
Yeah. I would say actually they were disappointing that they gave up 23 rounds.
Yeah. Let's rephrase the Ents looked good. Of course Ents looked good. They're Ents. EG did not look particularly good.
There's nothing to expect from EG. Like they come into this with this roster is not meant to do anything. So you kind of like you have to take the rough with the smooth. You have to expect they're going to get battered by teams like Ents. And look at the fact they got 14 rounds on one map and go,
yeah.
There's something to build on.
I'm hoping that the EG stuff improves. I don't know if we've mentioned this on the podcast, but the CEO of EG has been replaced.
Stepped down.
Yeah, by someone else who was in the... I don't remember if it was exactly the C-suite or if it was somewhere else within the company, but someone else who has done a bunch of esports work before, that it may make more sense. I don't know if that's going to realistically change anything, but it may... We'll see as it goes through. That's our entire conversation on EG. We don't need to talk anymore about them.
Yeah, like they've clearly given up on being good because they had the roster they were going to sign and they didn't, and they just put forward their academy roster. They're clearly just seeing this as a period of, well, let's be kind and say it's a period of transition. Yeah. It's more a period of austerity, but fine. Like. They should lose to Ents. They did lose to Ents.
Yep. Speaking of a team that should have lost to another team, MIBR went and beat Mouse.
Insanity's... Mouse Sports are so Mouse Sports at all points, aren't they? They just refuse to ever be consistent. They're never consistently bad. They're never consistently good. They're just consistently inconsistent. they will have good players. They will have great. I mean, they've got Frozen. Like they can have great players. They can have good players. They can have 5 players who you look at and go, yeah, this team can be really good, and they'll still just lose to MIBR out of nowhere, and they always will. It's something to do with the name. I'm convinced it is. Like, it has to be. The org is just cursed. They cannot be consistent.
Yeah. This is just to remind everyone, because we haven't seen MIBR in a bit. This is the new look MIBR, right? So no more Henny, no more Turtle. So it's Exit, Brazen, Insani, Drop, and Safe, who came over from Furia.
But it's not even like it was the new recruits.
No, it was Insani.
Like, Drop and Safe are fine, and it's just Insani who does have it in him to have these games, but it doesn't really happen to great teams. Not very often.
No, but insane.
And now Sar's still so young. Like,
to be fair, both of these
it's hard to be too mean.
Both these teams are really young. Other than Safe, Safe brings the number on MIBR up a lot, but
Safe is like, he's older.
He's 28,
but in Counter-Strike terms, he's still very young because
he started playing really late.
He's only been playing the game for like 3 years.
He started playing really late,
so he's actually quite inexperienced and might be able to play for longer. I don't know.
Yeah. So MIBR will face ENCE about an hour after we finish recording, which will have already happened by the time you listen to this. The other side of the bracket is the more fun side. Big win and beat Monty, which I would not have guessed because, well, I think that at this point, if you've listened to this podcast for more than 20 minutes, you know that we're resident Big haters. The thing I want to note about what Big has done.
We're not big haters. We're
not big truthers. We're not big truthers.
We're not angry with Big.
That's a good point.
We're just disappointed. We're just say,
I do need to point something out in regards to Big is they've brought Tabson back as an IGL. Sin is no longer IGLing, or while he was supposed to, he's not going to for a while. They realized somewhat smartly, I don't know who could have ever suggested this. Go listen to our old episodes. Who could have suggested that maybe bringing a player up from Academy and saying, here's this brand new tier 1 team with a bunch of players he's never played with before, and then also going IGL for the first time was a poor decision.
Well, he played with Prosus and Crimbo before,
okay,
right?
But still, probably not a great idea.
I don't know. I feel like if you're going to bring him up and he is an in-game leader...
He's not an in-game leader.
Then it's fine. But yeah, if you're going to do it and he's not normally an in-game leader, yeah, maybe not.
So yeah, they win and beat Monty, who's just kind of, they're being Monty. I don't have much more on the matter than that, but like...
Monty... They downgraded in firepower when they lost Boros, which was always going to be the case. They're never going to be able to get another player as good as Boros is mechanically, and just as aggressive as he is. So they went the other way and they got Bro, who is a lot more disciplined. He's a very good player, actually. From when I've watched him, I've always thought he was a very good player. But they don't have the same raw firepower, and you almost have to like overpower Big, because it's quite difficult to beat them in a, like, you're not going to beat him in a game of chess. You have to beat him in boxing. Like, if it's in chess boxing, you've got to knock him out. You're not going to checkmate him. Like, you just have to swing for the fences and just ruin all of their plans, because if you let them do what they want, they will beat you. And I don't think Monty quite have the firepower to overpower Big.
Yeah. All right. Heroic versus Rooster was the other opening round match.
A complete non-event.
I watched this match. I didn't realize it ended. Once it had ended, Rooster got 6 rounds. Heroic got 32. There's nothing more to talk about it than this. We do need to talk about the upper semifinals that is currently happening, though, between Heroic and Big, because on Big's map pick of Ancient, they went up 11-4 in the first half, and then went up 14-4, and then went to triple overtime. And won. Big won. But they went to triple overtime.
Yeah, just sometimes, right? I don't expect you to get this, but sometimes you just have to partake in a little bit of trolling. Just a tiny amount of tomfoolery.
An amount of tomfoolery. You
just have to do a little bit of trolling. And you know, that's what Big have done. There's a little bit of trolling. And then they stopped before they got too silly.
I don't think they stopped. If they stopped before they got too silly, it would have been like 16-13.
No.
Yeah, to go to the triple overtime.
They went right to the brink. They went right to the brink, and they were like, "Oh, we're only joking," and they won.
All right.
Little bit trolling.
MIBR face ENCE later today, and Mouse and EG face each other later today. Monty beat Rooster this morning, which is a big non-event. Although Rooster did get a map on Monty.
Say that?
I will, yeah.
Yeah, Rooster like smacked him on Nuke if I remember rightly, and Chelios had like this like 6. I think it was either an ace or a 4K on ramp. We just kept
a 4K
peeking and just killing them. Was it a 4K? And it's like, oh yeah, maybe they can do something, and they just kind of got sounded beaten.
They will. They'll face the loser of Mouse Sports EG in the lower round. Rooster versus Evil Geniuses can be a very fun match.
That game is a no-win game for EG.
if EG win that game, then you go, great. You're better than
everyone. Just goes, well, yeah.
Well, EG goes, yeah, great. You've beaten the second or third best team in Australia, a region not historically known for their great teams. If you lose to them, you've lost to the second or third best team in Australia, who's not known for great teams.
There's a clip of it's a really old clip of a English show, and for some reason they have Michael Owen, who world famous footballer, at his peak won the Ballon d'Or, brilliant footballer. And he's playing against some 13-year-old goalkeeper, and they I think the coach trying to teach this like goalkeeper how to like play in 1v1s. And Michael Owen like chips him, he slots it past him, and one time he goes round him, puts it in, and starts celebrating. And the coach just goes, "Well done, Michael. He's 13," and that's what EG playing Rooster is like. So, well done, EG. You beat Rooster. Doesn't count. Like. What you can't. You're not allowed to celebrate. He's 30.
Yeah. So let's do our predictions. Who is making it out of here? Assuming Hero can get their shit together, them and ENCE are my number 1 and 2 teams to make it out.
Yeah, it kind of has to be, doesn't it?
I have a lot more.
Who did MIBR play?
I have a lot more faith in ENCE than I do in Heroic right now. MIBR will play Monty. Assuming MIBR loses to ENCE. That's kind of a toss-up. I kind
of think MIBR might win.
I was going to say, I lean Monty, but like,
so
I could see MIBR winning that pretty easily. It depends on the day Insani is having.
Monty not convincing.
Well, it really does, because like the rest of the players on MIBR are pretty consistently where they are at. Like Exit and Brazen can fluctuate a little bit, but Insani can either be this like average 1.1 player, or he can do the shit that he did yesterday, like this morning yesterday, where he goes really, really high and has really good highs. If Insani's a really good player, it's an MIBR thing. Otherwise, it's kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, Insani's kind of like, he's the player you'd want Boros to like go up against, where it's like they're both super aggressive, they both can completely take over a map, and Monty don't have their version of that player, so it does kind of come down to whether or not Insani takes over. Because if he does, they don't have a player who can show it.
And then assuming Mouse win today, and we see the battle of the underperforming, well, not underperforming, the battle of we need a better name for the third tier 3 team from Australia against the tier 3 team from North America. Bout we're gonna have.
Yeah, it's not even the battle of mid, is it? I mean, that meme which is people will say is the battle of mid. Like it's not even that.
So
it's just
Mouse will face.
It's just the two monkeys fighting. Yeah.
Mouse will face the loser of Heroic and Big, which could be either team at this point. Heroic's up. Heroic's down 1 map, but I don't.
Heroic will probably win. Unfortunately.
Okay, so
and then Mouse Big. I refuse to pick a winner.
Our answer here is probably making it through. ENCE, Heroic, MIBR, and Big?
Mouse and
all right. So let's be very clear.
The lower
Heroic ENCE should make it through every day of the week.
Yeah.
The tier below them, MIBR, Big, Mouse. And then the tier below that is just Monty, and then it's every other team.
I think MIBR do just lose out, unfortunately. I think they just lose out from here.
Do you think they lose to Monty in the lower semis?
I think they might beat Monty and then just lose to Mouse and then Big, or Big and then Mouse, and miss out, I think.
That's possible. They'd face the lower bracket final loser, which... Well, actually, if Rooster... So the lower bracket final loser. So if MIBR goes on to the lower bracket final and then lose to Big or Mouse, they face the winner of EG Rooster for the 4th place decider match. So they can get pretty deep. They will have to get a win against Big or Mouse in the 4th place decider match.
Yeah, they need to beat either Big or Mouse, I think. And Monty.
Yeah. If they don't beat Monty, there's nothing.
It's not looking good, Brev. It's not looking good.
It's probably Mouse, Big, Heroic, Ents.
Oh yeah.
But note
Mouse and Big are so inconsistent.
Note that MIBR and Monty have a legitimate path to making it through.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They do.
Just that way. The only teams that won't make it are EG and Rooster. We are certain on these points. Yeah. I am willing to say that we are certain of these points and get clowned on for EG making it through. They won't.
Yeah, they won't.
This is why I'm willing to do this. All right. I think that's it for us this week, unless any...
Yeah, it's kind of a... actually, there is something else we should talk about, which is Into the Breach signing.
Oh, yes, Into the Breach signing. Oh, there's 2 things. I have another thing, too, after. I have another thing.
Into the Breach signing kicker as an in-game leader. Obviously, Thomas stepped down, making sure that, when I say we, the English, we can have nothing nice. We had one team for 3 weeks, and then all of the players split up. One of them's gone to the bench, one of them's gone to TSM, and one of them's now as a Romanian flag on HLTV. Into the Breach are now a full international lineup with no English players. Kika is the in-game leader. Supposedly, he did a lot of the in-game leading on Virtus Pro, and he had. I think he did it
before James did.
Yeah, and he has a big say in the way they play. So I'm tentatively optimistic of Kika as an in-game leader, but that team is, I would say, hastily assembled, is how I would describe that team. For those of you unaware, it's Kika Masuta. My mind's just gone blank. Kika Masuta, Rallen, a Crucial, who was the old in-game leader, and the guy they just started, BMAS.
Yeah.
So it's like
it feels like Sprout.
It feels like they've signed whoever was a free agent and they heard of, to me.
I mean, I'm not against this lineup. I'm happy Masuda may be getting an actual shot.
Yeah, there's a world where this team's good, and I think that world is Kika is legitimately a genuinely good in-game leader. And he really can bring that Virtus Pro style with him into the Breach and turn these players into make them system players in that system. I think that's the world where this team is good.
I don't know.
I'm skeptical that he has the talent.
I think you and I, for a while, were on the Masuda may actually be a good player train. And then he was on Vitality and just shit positions because they needed a 5th player, right? And then he went to Falcons.
Yeah.
And Falcons was its own mess when it was the French team.
He's had flashes of ability, but it's never been
I hope he gets to show a little more on this.
I hope so. There's something in me that tells me he can still be good.
I also just don't particularly rate the Falcons lineup that was there when he was there, because I think it was like NBK IGLing or like
I think Body was the in-game leader.
Body was in-game leader for like part of it, and before that I think it was like Haji. Who was IGL? I
don't think he was the IGL, but he's a good player, Haji, actually. I actually He's a player who falls through the cracks quite a bit. He's actually very talented.
I agree. He's
a victim of the French scene not being what it was.
Yeah, he's on the former double pony roster right now.
Yeah, but he's on a lot of those French teams that like rise up and do well. And that's because he's a good player, and he's just a victim of the fact the French scene isn't very strong.
Yep.
In my opinion.
All right. The last bit that I had for the day, Counter-Strike 2 is available to basically everyone now.
Yeah.
And people on the internet have a love-hate relationship with it. I won't go into any further than that. But it means that
so it's kind of reassuring to me because there was a lot of things that I thought felt weird but couldn't
put your finger on.
It's really hard to articulate because it's like I can't explain to you what it that it feels weird to spray the AK-47. And then other people have picked it up and gone, oh yeah, there's something off about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm validated. I'm not just either we're all in a collective folly of many, or it feels weird.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels weird. I'd be willing to say it felt weird. I think it feels better today. So they've been releasing daily updates to this game since it came out on Thursday. So open beta hit Thursday for basically everyone. Friday they sent out another update. It was kind of small. Monday was Labor Day in the United States, so we had off. Work was off. No one was at work. Tuesday they shot another update out. Wednesday they shot another update out. Maybe they didn't Tuesday. They definitely did Wednesday though. They've been hitting updates basically every day, adjusting little bits, and you can see that people online are going, "Hey, we think the interpolation ratio needs to be this," and then people try it out on their own and they say, "Yep, this is what it should be," and then you see the next day, Valve interpolation is switched to this default value. So you see them obviously looking online, reading things. The game definitely feels better than it did feel. The first week in playing, it felt wrong. I still think that movement is still a little off, specifically in the air.
Certain things feel a little
air
strange.
strafing just doesn't exist right now.
But I described it somewhere else as it's like having a stone in your shoe. Like when you've played the same game for me 6,500 hours, any tiny change to anyone who's not used to playing the game looks insignificant. But like a stone in your shoe, it looks insignificant from the outside, but inside it really hurts. And that's what it feels like to me. It's like every small change feels massive because you're so used to what it felt like before.
I'm not. I actually think that we're in a really good place with it. I think that feels good. And whatever the issues that currently are with it, it doesn't feel like it feels like something I will get used to for the most part, right? It doesn't feel like it's like, oh, the game is bugged, the game is broken. It just feels like stuff. Oh, this is new. This is a difference. I'm gonna have to get used to this. The other thing that I want to state is that did you play the Counter-Strike Global Offensive beta when it came out? Okay.
No.
So I played it for about 6 minutes and then said, I hate this game. I'm never playing this game again. Bought the game 3 years later, said, I hate this game. I'm never playing it again. And started playing another year after that. But when I played the beta a million years ago, the beta was garbage. It was just trash. And you see that you go online and people agree with this, that this beta is in a much better position than the original Global Offensive beta, which was just garbage, and that we're getting places a lot quicker than we used to. So the hope is that as we continue to have the game out, as people continue to play the game, that we get to a considerably better place with the game.
I just hate MR12, and I always will.
I
really hate it.
I don't know.
I just hate it. I think it takes away so much from the game. I really don't like it.
As someone who plays casually, right, not thinking about pro scene, just as someone who plays casually, it's been nice I can fit more games in time. So if I'm playing shit one game, it's easy for me to move on, get the next one in. But also, it doesn't it's just kind of whatever to me. My biggest problem with MR12 right now is that the eco sucks. And by the eco sucks, I mean the eco is too good right now.
They might fix the economy,
do.
but that's not my issue with it. Like my issue with it is that every game, it feels like it's over just as you're like the half is like, oh right, I really get into the swinger things like round 9, and it's like, oh you have 3 rounds. Like that so you would have 6 rounds to ride this way. Like it feels like you get 1 or 2 good rounds, and then and the half is completely changed. It used to be, you have to really grind on nuke to your 6 T-side rounds, and now it's like you only need 4. You don't need as much depth. Like you only have to do 12 T rounds, so like you don't need as much depth. You start to get a feel for the game. The half finishes like you're on a heater. The game finishes. Like this is so much of the joy is just taken away to me. It's like if you're having a bad game, you can never recover because the game's just over. Like, and you get to like round 8, you're 7. How many games on overpass have we seen in pro play in your pugs where you are 7-0 down and it feels impenetrable, and then you find the chink in the armor, the little weakness, you find that, and then the half completely turns around, you recover to like 10-5. It happens all the time in pro play. Now, if you go 7-0 down on overpass, you've already lost the half. No questions asked. You've already lost the half. You're probably looking at 9-3. And it's like, it makes it so much more momentum based. And every gimmick round you win is worth 20% more than it was before. So upsets will be more common. Counter-stratting will be more important. There will be less T-side depth. And there's just fewer rounds for good players to be better than bad. Like, a bad player can do something to win a round that they shouldn't be able to do. That's like a low percentage play.
And that means more now.
And over 16 rounds, that usually evens out to you losing. Doesn't always, but it usually does. Over 12, it's a little bit more wishy-washy. Like, you only have to win 2 like bullshit rounds, and it completely changes the half. More so than it did before.
The big... so I've played a lot of Valorant. I cast Valorant. I observe Valorant. I do replays for Valorant. I played a lot of Valorant. I haven't played in month and a half, 2 months at this point. Famously MR12 game. Valorant has always felt to me like you win the pistol, you win your conversion, and if you can win the bonus, that's 6 rounds of the 13 over. Right there. Right? If you win both pistols, right? Yeah. It's a lot. But the thing that makes Valorant able to do it, because I don't hate it in Valorant. I don't hate it in Counter-Strike, but I'm also still looking at this with beta goggles on. Is that if you lose 2 rounds, your eco's broke. It doesn't matter what your money's at. Yeah. Like you could be at 9K and you're broke, just because of there is a considerably reduced economy in the game. Right, in in CS2 right now, you could win like 4 rounds in a row, get like 14K, right, and walk into a round, and you have money for the rest of the half. It is a legitimate problem.
Yeah, that's not. And I also think
like your game length thing, totally right. Everything you said is absolutely right. I don't think we're going to change anyone's mind on MR12. Like, I don't think Valve is going to decide to switch back to MR15. I think we're stuck with this for a minute, but I think that games become too snowball with the eco we currently have. It's a bad thing.
Yeah. But I also don't want to see the economy change to like max.
No, I think max
that's horrible.
12 would just be better. Like even just bringing it down a little bit, because 4K down, that's a whole buy.
Yeah,
like
that is a lot.
That's a lot down. Like I don't like.
But that's a solution to a problem that we've created ourselves.
Yeah. Yes.
We're solving a problem that we've caused by changing the length of the game.
Like buys in Counter-Strike are more expensive than buys in Valorant on average, right? Because Valorant, every gun is the M4A1S. Everyone buys heavy armor. There's no head or non-head. And you have to buy util in Counter-Strike, whereas you have to buy abilities in Valorant. And on generics, the util costs more in in Counter-Strike. So I mean, your buys cost more anyway. We can have a little bit of an inflated ceiling, but like 16 is just too much.
So I much prefer, if we want to shorten the game, it's an idea of Harry's, and I've seen Hawker say it as well. Shorten the round length and shorten the length of smokes and slightly of Molotovs as well. We don't need to sit behind a smoke for 17 seconds.
I understand that.
Just make it 14 and shorten the round length. Because you know my feelings. Everyone knows my fucking feelings on Inferno. Part of the reason it's so shit is because there's one entrance to B and it's just smoked the whole round. So you're just like, most of the round is spent sat behind smokes for both teams. It's like, we can shorten this. Like, don't shorten the bit that people actually want, the gameplay. Shorten the bits that nobody fucking wants, standing behind smokes the whole time. I much prefer that fix.
Yeah. I'm a big fan though. Actually, let me rephrase that. That wording is just totally wrong. I do wish Valve would make smokes less dark if you're sitting in them.
I don't really have an issue with it.
I have a clip that I had a 1v4 on Anubis last night. I got smoked out in, what the fuck is it called? Is it just cave CT connector? The area that goes towards mid on the A site, B site.
Oh, glass. Oh, on B palace.
Sure. Yeah, the area that goes towards mid. That's not the long area that goes to the back.
Okay, I think I know what you mean. Yeah, palace. I think I've always called it
that
palace.
Sounds right.
It connects like bricks.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it connects
palace,
the B site and mid.
Yeah,
it's palace.
So I got smoked out palace, so I went to sit in the smoke as a degen with an MP9 and a 1v4, and sitting in the smoke. I could not see anything. My screen was just so dark gray.
I don't mind it.
To be fair, it was absolutely a
that's fine.
Bit of why I was there. It had to do with I sat in the smoke for like 10 seconds. Most people won't. All right. That is all we have for this week's episode. We'll be back next week. We'll talk about Group C. We'll talk about the end of Group B. We'll talk about any news that comes out then. And if we have nothing else to talk about, apparently us talking about TFT was popular. So
well, for like one or two people at least.
It's the only comment on any video that I've seen that it's got actual upvotes on.
Oh.
Yes.
Hello.
Oh.
I can't hear you. I think you
rest in peace.
Oh, there we go. Hello. You're
all
back.
Right. Well, we're going to get going. You can find us on Twitter at AZS, at Logan Ramhap, and at ReadTLDR. We'll be back next week.